Greetings from Scouse Farm. Busy Saturday, so I was going to start the video on the road outside, but it was just ridiculously busy, so I'm going to start it in here. So we start with a little bit of peace, and I'm in the grounds of the Holy Trinity Church on Church Road, aptly named, at the junction with Fair Lane, FIR, in Wavertree. And I've filmed a few videos in Wavertree recently, but also last year. Let's see if I can see the top of it now. You can just make out in the background there, that's the top of the oldest section, or one of the older sections of the Blue Coat School. Ta-da! And that's some of the new stuff, so let's not look at that because it's hideous. But as mentioned, I want to give a thanks to my mate John, who mentioned what I originally wanted to show you here, which wasn't the church, but because the church is literally over the road from the item in question that I want to show you, I thought, well, I want to read up a little bit about the church as well. And I'm glad I did, because I didn't want to start the video on the main road, because that's where the thing is I'm going to show you. But thanks to my mate John, he did mention that those mountain steps were out front of the church, and then I forgot about it, but someone put a comment in a video I did recently, which was over that side, because there's some special gates attached to the front of what is now the Royal Blind School. That is what I'm pointing at now. And it was a fella called Liam who left a comment reminding me about these horse mounting steps that are near the front of this church. So I just, as mentioned, wanted to have a little walk around in the churchyard first, and then tell you a little bit about this building, because it is quite a special church in a number of ways. First, it was a Georgian church, so it was built in 1794 during the reign of King George III, Mad King George, and it was designed by John Hope. It was originally built as a chapel of ease for the larger All Saints Church in Childwall, which is over that way. Where are we? Over that way. Which was it still is the oldest church in Liverpool, the oldest standing original church building in Liverpool. But that's where everybody went. And when more merchants, rich people, moved in and wanted to attend church in the areas surrounding Childwall, there was just too many people to get in church for Sunday. So they had to build other churches, and this was one of them. And this served the people around here, as Wavertree did grow as a suburb of Liverpool, where a lot of the wealthy merchants decided to put some roots down and build big, massive houses. So instead of them traipsing all the way down the muddy paths towards Childwall, they had this church made for them. In 1867, it became a parish in its own right. So it was built in 1794, but in 1867, it became a parish in its own right. So it was no longer then associated with, can I get a look at that tower there without walking over the grave? I don't know. Yeah, with it became a parish in its own right without being associated with the All Saints Church in Childwall. Oh, not the best. I'm not going to walk over those gravestones, but this front tower that I'm showing you now, it used to have on the top there, it used to have like a lantern structure, a big massive stone lantern structure, which could be seen from many miles away when it was switched on, apparently, when it was illuminated. But a few churches in Liverpool and elsewhere, they had to be reduced in size because of the tragedy that happened at the Mariners Church of St. Nicholas down in the city centre. And I have done a video of that church, and long story short, I can't remember the exact details, but the tower, or the spire, it collapsed and killed a number of people, many of which were school children, which was an absolute tragedy. So based on that, a lot of the big tall towers and spires had to get redeveloped, or at least taken down and rebuilt. And I think that's when that one happened, but I'm not quite sure if that was the reason. But it was definitely something to do with safety concerns anyway, why it was reduced. But when this was opened, it was the Reverend William Cleaver, who was the Bishop of Chester, and on the 5th of August 1794 he opened all of the original building that you're looking at now, and he dedicated it to the Holy Trinity. So that's where the name come from, and that is why it's now known as the Holy Trinity Church of Wavertree. And in 1911 it was remodeled by Sir Charles Riley, and it added some neo-Grecian elements to what was once described by the late Sir John Betjeman as Liverpool's best Georgian church. And Sir John Betjeman, he was the poet laureate from 1972 up until his death in, I think, 1984 or somewhere around that time. And he was also a staunch supporter of architecture in Britain. So he was dismayed by the vandalism of the 60s when the state started destroying a lot of our original heritage and replacing it with disgusting brutalistic buildings. And he was one of the people who saved St Pancras Station in London from demolition, because that was on the chopping block too. I think they were going to demolish St Pancras Station. So yeah, the original building he said was Liverpool's best Georgian church, but it did, when remodeled, get some neo-Grecian features. And I think you see the colour change there from the drain pipe. I think that's part of it. So I think this is the original Georgian. It does look Georgian to me anyway. And then I think this round the front does have remnants of Grecian architecture, because it's got a few curves at the front of it. Let's have a look. It definitely looks like an addition to me, all different colours. But I haven't read much up on the history, but that suggests to me that was one of the additions there. Yeah, I'm going for that. That looks Grecian to me. And then in 1920, a couple of years after the Great War, the war to end all wars, which actually didn't, they placed a quite striking memorial and monument to the fallen, and that is what you're looking at now. And I'm filming this on, I think, the 28th or 29th of November. I don't even know what day it is. It's Saturday, I know that. I don't know what date it is. I think it's the 29th. But we're not long past Remembrance Day, so you can still see where some people have laid tribute at the base of this monument. And this was placed here in 1920. Not walking on any graves here, no, that's all right. And to be fair, it's not in the best condition, but at least it's still here. A lot of crumbling stone, but it is quite striking. And then in 1927, the church acquired some additional land just over the other side of the road where I'm about to take you now, when I find a gap in the traffic. And the church hall was built so that they could hold meetings there instead of opening up the main church and using the electric, gas and light and whatever else from inside the church. So they built, I'm getting on this side, they built a new church hall where I'm about to come and show you now. Pro Patria, I think it says there, that's it. Yeah, Pro Patria, Latin for for country. And that looks like an addition because it's got 1939, 1945. So, as is the case, a lot of the monuments to the First World War, they were added to at the end of the Second World War. Right, let's try and find a gap in the traffic and take you to the original monument I wanted to show you. But it's not a bad distraction, is it, walking around inside a lovely churchyard? It does look like someone's just lopped something off the top there and left it. But yeah, that used to have a quite striking lantern. And I'll leave a link down below to an article, and it might have I think I looked and seen a picture of it, what it used to look like with that lantern on top. So I'll leave a link if you do want to read up any further. And as mentioned, in 1927 he acquired that parcel of land, and that's the church hall that was built. Let's get over here now. And now we are at take note of the shape there. But we are at the mounting steps, and these mounting steps were used by people who turned up on the horses to dismount from the horse and then get back on the horse after they attended church. And I believe that they were over the other side of the road, literally next to the church, but were moved over here at some point, I think, or at least one of the articles I read said that happened. And yeah, I should have just read this verse, shouldn't I, because it says the same thing on there. Originally sighted outside the church, on and off the horses. And mountain steps, as just mentioned then, they're usually around 3 steps. This one's 4, so well, it's 3 steps and then you're on the top bit. So that's quite usual for a lot of these mountain steps. But also there was an article I read that suggested it may have also been here before the church was built and used as a stile. So with this being an area of agricultural land, a lot of farm fields would have had stiles that allowed you to step over fences to get access to fields and such, and enclosures. So it may have been used prior to being a mountain step, but you can just see how old it is. Look at the wear, look at the relief in the steps and the amount of carving into the center of the sandstone, the way it's been worn down. I just think it's fantastic, fascinating to look at, to see all this history there. And the way they did get on and off the horses, a lot of it, the females would not ride with both legs over the horse, they would just sit on the side. So they would have both legs trailing off to the side of the horse. And then apparently when you stand on the stirrups to get over into the saddle, you do so at the near side, which is the left side of the horse. So I imagine that means that where we are now, the horse's head will be facing that way. And you climb up, put your foot in the stirrups, get your leg over, or sit onto the side of it. But it's just a fascinating little piece of history that people drive past every day and don't notice, myself included. And when I mentioned the shape of the post next to it, I think that's where, you know, you put the reins of the horse over, so it doesn't just lift its head up and push the reins back off it. It'll catch underneath, and you can tie it off as well, so under there it'll catch under there. And then you can see there was also something attached to this iron post nut and bolt thing, so there was probably a loop there or something, so you could tie off the reins. But just fantastic, delighted with it. And all the way along you've got more of them where you could tie the horses off outside the front of the church hall, because it was a busy old church in the day. Right, viewers, that'll do you. So thank you all very much for watching. Have yourselves a great day, and that should give you a good look at why I think that is a neo-Grecian addition. And Scouse Farm, we'll see you all again soon.